Jai. So, Prabhuji, thank
Okay,
you
so
for joining.
yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Sorry.
Really appreciate you. It was a kind of a last minute change, and really thanks a lot for accepting. So, all of you, you are already familiar with Prabhuji. So, not much of an introduction needed, but just to give a kind of a brief one. Is he's one of the senior most preachers in ISKCON, and we have, we more important than his preaching, I personally like the application of his own preaching in his own life. So he is one of a kind of a model gruhasthas for all of us. Personally applies it in nicely in his life as well as for his family also. His both the daughters are also initiated very nice teachings he has given, and it's always a kind of a pleasure to be in his company and learn from him. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for coming over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you all the assembled devotees. Requires a blessing from you. I'll just read few verses today, although I did not prepare anything very specific on these slides today. Sorry for that. But we'll read Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, today is appearance day of Advaita Acharya today. I will just read who Advaita Acharya was and a small story of Prabhupada in this regards. So we'll read this Bhagavatam shloka, then we'll also read about Advaita Acharyas. We typically read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, but on these specific days, we should also read some things which are related to the Acharyas. So today's appearance day of Advaita Acharya. We'll also look at a small story about Prabhupada and a small section which talks about who Advaita Acharya was and how did he interact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I will start the Bhagavatam class first. Thank you.
Prabhu, sorry. Prabhu, will you
Yes.
share the verses, the screen, or Rao Prabhu, can you share
Yeah,
the?
I will share. Sorry,
You
I
are
did not
co-host.
realize that I'm not sharing. Yeah.
You are co-host. You can share
So
it now.
yeah, I'm just trying to see where that sharing is. Prabhu, how do I go? Share screen. Okay. Yeah, got it. Let me know if you're seeing my screens now. I think it is, right?
We can.
Are you able to see my screens? Okay. So we'll start with, so today's Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, we are at chapter number 12, which is talking about Parikshit Maharaj. And we'll take verses from 22 till 29. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Bhattam Tato Jaya Mudire Nashtaprayasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ittam Shloke Bhakti Nashtaki. Okay, so we'll go with Shloka 22. Mragendra Eva Vikranto Nivesho Himava Niva Titikshur Vasudevaso Sihishnu Pitaraviva. Translation. This child will be as strong as lion, as worthy a shelter as the Himalaya mountains. He will be forbearing like the earth and tolerant as his parents. I'll read the first purport and then others can participate in the other purports. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One is compared to the lion when one is very strong in chasing an enemy. One should be a lamb at home and a lion in the chase. The lion never fails in the chase of an animal. Similarly, the head of the state should never fail in chasing an enemy. The Himalaya mountains are famous for all richness. There are innumerable caves to live in, numberless trees of good fruits to eat, good springs to drink water from, and profuse drug and minerals to cure the disease. Any man who is not materially prosperous can take shelter of these great mountains, and he will be provided with everything required. Both the materialist and spiritualist can take advantage of the great shelter of the Himalayas. On the surface of the earth, there are so many disturbances caused by the inhabitants. In the modern age, the people have begun to detonate atomic weapons on the surface of earth, and still the earth is forbearing to the inhabitants. Like a mother who excuses a little child, parents are always tolerant to children for all sorts of mischievous acts. An ideal king may be possessed of all these good qualities, and the child Parikshit is foretold to have these qualities in perfection. So this is in continuation of the Brahmanas who are describing the good qualities of Parikshit Maharaj, on how that child would be. And this verse specifically talks about three qualities here. One is he's as strong as lion. So it is said that Parikshit Maharaj, and even before Parikshit Maharaj, even Yudhishthir Maharaj, when they used to go for conquering the other kingdoms, it was such that people never used to, few of them never used to fight and just used to surrender to them, in that fear. And when Yudhishthir Maharaj used to conquer or go for any battles, there was a horse which talked about, if if you don't fight, you will face Arjuna. So that was the kind of terror that was there with the other king. So Parikshit Maharaj also was similarly as ferocious as a lion, as it said here. And then it also said that he is worthy of taking a shelter. So when Parikshit Maharaj was typically ruling his kingdom, all the inhabitants, so there is in the later shlokas also it is said that all the living entities who were part of the kingdom were well taken care of. So Parikshit Maharaj was typically taking care of all the living entities, not even humans. Any living entities that was part of the kingdom was well sheltered in with Parikshit Maharaj. Here also it is said it is forbearing like earth. So Prabhupada writes here that there are a lot of atrocities that people are doing typically to the Mother Earth. So a lot of disturbances Prabhupada writes about. So the earth is like, here it is mentioned that nuclear weapons are typically detonated on the earth. Similarly, you see that we get so many things from the Mother Earth, the minerals and other things. So we do exploit a lot of things, taking all the minerals and everything from the Mother Earth. So Mother Earth never retaliates saying that, oh, I have a problem, or there is an issue, do not do this. So this is what is the other quality which Prabhupada is talking about, that he is forbearing like the Mother Earth. And also there is one more quality which talks about tolerance in here. We will see later when we look at Parikshit Maharaj at a later stage, when he was really cursed to die within 7 days. One of the good qualities is shown there, that when he was cursed, he was quite tolerant. So when this curse was given to Parikshit Maharaj, he never retaliated or he never said any word. He was actually praising that, yes, I have done a mistake and I should get the punishment what I deserve for. So immediately when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed, okay, he never spoke anything. So good quality as tolerant as it is mentioned in this verse. Okay. Let's go to the next verse, which is 23. It says, Pitamaha Samasamye Prasade Girisho Girishopamam Ashraya Sarvabhutanam Tatha Devo Samashrayah. Translation. This child will be like his grandfather Yudhishthir or Brahma in equanimity of mind. He will be munificent like the Lord of Kailasha Hill Shiva. He will be the resort of everyone, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is even the shelter of Goddess of Fortune. Anyone can read? Or
Yes, Prabhu.
yes, please go ahead.
Mental equanimity refers both to Maharaj Yudhishthir and to Brahma, the grandfather of all living beings. According to Sridhar Swami, the grandfather referred to is Brahma, but according to Vishwanath Chakravarti, the grandfather is Maharaj Yudhishthir himself. But in both cases, the comparison is equally good because both of them are recognized representatives of the Supreme Lord, and thus both of them have to maintain mental equanimity, being engaged in welfare work for the living being. And any responsible executive agent at the top of the administration has to tolerate different types of onslaughts from the very persons from whom he works. Brahmaji was criticized even by the gopis, the highest perfectional devotees of the Lord. The gopis were dissatisfied with the work of Brahmaji because Lord Brahma, as creator of this particular universe, created eyelids which obstructed their seeing Lord Krishna. They could not tolerate a moment blinking of the eyes, for it kept them from seeing their beloved Lord Krishna. So, what to speak of others who are naturally very critical of every action of a responsible man. Similarly, Maharaj Yudhishthir had to cross over many difficult situations created by his enemies, and he proved to be the most perfect maintainer of the mental equality in all critical circumstances. Therefore, the example of both grandfathers for maintaining equanimity of mind is quite fitting. Lord Shiva is celebrated demigod who awards gift to beggars. His name is therefore Ashutosh, or one who is pleased with very easily. He is also called the Bhutnath, or the Lord of the common folk, who are mainly attached to him because of his munificent gifts, even without consideration of the after effects. Ravana was very attached to Lord Shiva, and by easily pleasing him, Ravana became so powerful that he wanted to challenge the authority of the Lord Rama. Of course, Ravana was never helped by Lord Shiva when he fought with Ram, the supreme personality of the Godhead, and the Lord of Lord Shiva, to Vrakasu. Lord Shiva awarded a benediction which was not only awkward but also disturbing. Vakasur became empowered by the grace of the Lord Shiva to vanish anyone's head simply by touching it. Although this was awarded by Lord Shiva, the cunning fellow wanted to make an experiment of the power by touching the head of Lord Shiva. Thus, the Lord had to take shelter of Vishnu to save himself from the trouble. And the Lord Vishnu, by his illusionary potency, asked Vakasur to make an experiment with his own head. The fellow did it and was finished in himself. And so the world was saved from all sorts of trouble by such a cunning beggar of the demigods. The excellent point is that Lord Shiva
never denies
anyone any sort of gift. He is therefore the most generous, although sometimes some kind of a mistake is made. Ram means the goddess of fortune, and her shelter is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the maintainer of all living beings. There are innumerable living beings, not only on the surface of the planet, but also in all other hundreds of thousands of planets. All of them are provided with all necessities of life and for the progressive march towards the end of self realization. and on the path of sense gratification, they are put into difficulty by the agency of Maya, the illusionary energy, and so travel the path of a false plan of economic development. Such economic development is never successful because it is illusionary. These men are always after the mercy of the illusionary goddess of fortune, but they do not know that a goddess of fortune can live only with the protection of Vishnu. Without Vishnu, the goddess of fortune is an illusion. We therefore seek the protection of Vishnu instead of directly seeking the protection of goddess of fortune. Only Vishnu and the devotees of Vishnu can give protection to all, and became and because Maharaj Parikshit was himself protected by Vishnu, it was quite possible for him to give complete protection to all who wanted to live under his rule. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The last sentence is very important. Only Vishnu and the devotees of Vishnu can give protection to all. And because Parikshit Maharaj himself was protected by Vishnu, it was quite possible for him to give the complete protection to all who wanted to live under his rule. So in this verse, it is clearly mentioned that he was like his grandfather. It is mentioned here as Yudhishthira, which said Yudhishthira or Brahma in equanimity of mind. This was one quality. And second was he was very much, it is said, munificent like Lord Shiva. And then the story narrates that Shiva is also called Ashutosh, right? He is very easily pleased with anyone, and he can give benediction to anyone. So quite a good quality that we see in this shloka also, where we are talking about giving shelter to everyone, since he is himself has taken the shelter of Lord Vishnu. He can give shelter to others. In terms of equanimity of mind, he was very good, and like Shiva also, he was very generous in his kingdom, giving everything that was required by the people who were in his kingdom. So these were the three qualities that are typically mentioned into this particular shloka. Anyone wants to add into this shloka? Subal Prabhu, you want to add anything on this?
No, Prabhu. Please continue. Thank you so much.
Okay. So the story is there. We all know what happened to Rakasur. He was given a benediction by Lord Shiva, but and he wanted to even destroy Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva went running to take the shelter of Vishnu, and then there was an experiment done saying, "You, why don't you touch your own head?" And then he was destroyed. This is one story, and yeah, the last point is quite important, as we read earlier. Okay. Let's go to the next shloka, which is 124. Sarva Sadguna Mahatmye Esha Krishnam Anuvartaha Ranti Devo Ivo Daro Yayater Eva Dharmikaha. Translation: the child will be almost as good as Lord Krishna by following his footsteps. In magnanimity, he will become as great as King Rantidev, and in religion, he will be like Maharaj Yayati. Anyone would like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. The last instruction of Lord Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is that one should give up everything and should follow in the footsteps of the Lord alone. Less intelligent persons do not agree to this great instruction of the Lord, as ill luck would have it. But one who is actually intelligent catches up this sublime instruction and is immensely benefited. Foolish people do not know that association is the cause of acquiring qualities. Association with fire makes an object hot, even in the material sense. Therefore, association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead makes one qualified like the Lord. As we have discussed previously, one can achieve 78% of the godly qualities by the Lord's intimate association. To follow the instructions of the Lord is to associate with the Lord. The Lord is not a material object whose presence one has to feel for such association. The Lord is present everywhere and at all the times. It is quite possible to have his association simply by following his instruction, because the Lord and his instruction and the Lord and his name, fame, attributes, and paraphernalia are all identical with him, being absolute knowledge. Maharaja Parikshit associated with the Lord even from the womb of his mother up to the last day of his valuable life, and thus he acquired all the essential good qualities of the Lord in all perfection. Rantideva, an ancient king prior to the Mahabharata period, referred to by Narada Muni while instructing Sanjaya, as mentioned in the Mahabharata, Drona Parva 67. He was a great king, liberal for hospitality and distribution of foodstuff. Even Lord Sri Krishna praised his acts of charity and hospitality. He was blessed by the great Vasishta Muni for supplying him cold water, and thus he achieved the heavenly planet. He used to supply fruits, roots, and leaves to the rishis, and thus he was blessed by them with fulfillment of his desires. Although a Kshatriya by birth, he never ate flesh in his life. He was especially hospitable to Vasishta Muni, and by his blessings only he attained the higher planetary residence. He is one of the pious kings whose names are remembered in the morning and evening. Yayati, the great emperor of the world and virginal forefather of all great nations of the world, who belonged to the Aryan and Indo-European stock. He is the son of the Maharaja Nahusa, and he became the emperor of the world due to his elder brothers becoming a great and liberated saintly mystic. He ruled over the world for several thousands of years and performed many sacrifices and pious activities recorded in his history. Although his early youth was very lustful and full of romantic stories, he fell in love with Devayani, the most beloved daughter of Sukracharya. Devayani wished to marry him, but at first he refused to accept her because of her being a daughter of Brahmana. According to Shastras, a Brahmana could marry the daughter of a Brahmana. They were very much cautious about Varna Sankara population in the world. Sukracharya amended this law of forbidden marriage and induced Emperor Yayati to accept Devayani. Devayani had a girlfriend named Sarmishta, who also fell in love with the emperor and thus went with her friend Devayani. Sukracharya forbade Emperor Yayati to call Sarmishta into his bedroom, but Yayati could not strictly follow his instruction. He secretly married to Sarmishta also and begot sons by her. When this was When this was known by Devayani, she went to her father and lodged a complaint. Yayati was much attached to Devayani, and when he went to his father-in-law's place to call her, Sukracharya was angry with him and cursed him to become impotent. Yayati begged his father-in-law to withdraw his curse, but the sage asked Yayati to ask youthfulness from his sons and let them become old as the condition of his becoming potent. He had 5 sons, 2 from Devayani and 3 from Sarmishta. From his 5 sons, namely Yadu, Turvasu, Druhu, Anu, and Puru, 5 famous dynasties, namely the Yadu dynasty, Yavana Turk dynasty, Boja dynasty, the Mleka dynasty Greek, and the Paurava dynasty, all emanated to spread all over the world. He reached the heavenly planet by dint of his pious acts, but he fell down from there because of his self-advertisement and criticizing other great souls. After his fall, his daughter and grandson bestowed upon him their accumulated virtues, and by the help of his grandson and friend Sibi, he was again promoted to the heavenly kingdom, becoming one of the assembly members of Yamaraja, with whom he was again promoted to the heavenly kingdom, becoming one of the assembly members of Yamaraja, with whom he is staying as a devotee. He performed more than 1,000 different sacrifices, gave in charity very liberally, and was a very influential king. His majestic power was felt all over the world. His youngest son agreed to award him his youthfulness when he was troubled with lustful desires, even for 1,000 years. Finally, he became detached from worldly life and returned the youthfulness again to his son Puru. He wanted to hand over the kingdom to Puru, but his noblemen and the subjects did not agree. But when he explained to his subjects the greatness of Puru, they agreed to accept Puru as a king. And thus Emperor Yati retired from family life and left home for the forest. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So again, two more qualities mentioned that he would be as good as Lord Krishna following his footsteps. He will be as great as King Rantidev, and he will be in religion same as Maharaj Yayati. So the story talks about Rantidev and Yayati on how they were. Few of the good points here is that the last instruction of Krishna, one should give up everything. So the last shloka is Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Praja Tam Sarva Papebhya Mokshashyami Masacha. So that was the instruction, and here it says quite a few people agree to this, a lot of people do not agree to this, but then ultimately it is said that if you have to do this, you have to give up everything and you have to surrender to Lord Krishna. Here also it says that association is very important. And then it says that association is only when, where is that? So not association because of, okay. So yeah, so these good qualities that we are talking about or discussing, how do you get a good quality in one or in a devotee? It's only through the association. So only when you associate, you start getting those good qualities in you. And it is said that 78% of the qualities is what you can also have within you. So the more you get the association, the more you get these qualities, and you can reach to a level where you can get 78% of the godly qualities just by association. So yeah, these are the two qualities that are spoken about that he had, Parikshit Maharaj had, similar to Rantidev and Yayati. So Prabhupada's purports are sometimes so simple that even reading you can understand, and sometimes they're very hard that you have to read it 2 to 3 times again. But few explanations are quite simple, that it just says what is required for us to typically understand. Okay. Move to the next shloka. 112.25. It says Dhritya Bali Sama Krishne Prasada Eva Sadgraha Ahar Tesho Asami Dhanam Vriddhanam Parupasaka. Translation: the child will be like Bali Maharaj in patience, a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna, like Prahlad Maharaj, a performer of many Ashwamedh horse sacrifices, and a follower of a follower of the old and experienced man. Purport. Anyone is there, or I can read?
I can.
No.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Bali Maharaj, one of the 12 authorities in the devotional service of the Lord, Bali Maharaj is a great authority in devotional services because he sacrificed everything to please the Lord and relinquished the connection of his so-called spiritual masters, a spiritual master who obstructed him on the path of risking everything for the service of the Lord. The highest perfection of religious life is to attain the stage of unqualified devotional service of the Lord without any cause or without being obstructed by any kind of worldly obligation. Bali Maharaj was determined to give up everything for the satisfaction of the Lord, and he did not care for any obstruction whatsoever. He is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, another authority in the devotional service of the Lord. Bali Maharaj and the history of his dealings with Vishnu Vamanadev are described in the
8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 11:24. Prahlad Maharaj, a perfect devotee of Lord Krishna, Vishnu, his father, Hiranyakashipu, chastised him severely when he was only 5 years old for his becoming an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. He was the first son of Hiranyakashipu, and his mother's name was Kayadu. Prahlad Maharaj was an authority in the devotional service of the Lord because he had his father killed by Lord Narasimhadev, setting the example that even a father should be removed from the path of devotional service if such a father happens to be an obstacle. He had 4 sons. The eldest son, Virochana, is the father of Bali Maharaj. Mentioned above, the history of Prahlad Maharaj's activities is described in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
So 2 great personalities again here. One is Bali Maharaj, lot of patience. So you all know the story that, Bali Maharaj was actually warned that, do not accept what he's saying. So it was his spiritual master saying that do not agree on what is being said. And then he still did not agree. And then at the last, when the Lord came in this form, sorry, this is Bali Maharaj. I'm getting it. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, Bali Maharaj was, this is what is shown here, that he was a great authority in devotional service and he sacrificed everything to please the Lord. So Lord took everything from him, saying that the 3rd step, where do I keep? And he gave everything that was typically there. So he was typically also warned on not to hear from his spiritual master. Still, he went ahead and gave everything, and this is the greatest sacrifice that was done by Bali Maharaj. Second great devotee is Prahlad Maharaj. As you see here, Hiranyakashipu was his father. He did everything possible to stop Prahlad Maharaj from worshipping or studying, but he could not do so. And Prahlad Maharaj had so much of faith within the Lord that every time all the atrocities that were done on Prahlad Maharaj, he was just able to conquer them just by remembering the Lord and taking his help. So 2 great qualities again, as he said, as is written here, is a very staunch devotee, because everything that Hiranyakashipu did, Prahlad Maharaj was able to overcome that. And then Bali Maharaj was patient, that even after losing everything, he knew that he's going to lose everything. Still, he gave everything that he had to the Lord. And the same qualities are as predicted, saying that these 2 qualities also would be present as part of Parikshit Maharaj's qualities also.
Hare Krishna,
Okay.
Prabhuji, just a small
Yes.
jigyasa. In the last
Yeah.
one, Prahlad Maharaj's son was Virochana. So he was also devotee, or he was Asura only?
Yeah, it is written
Prahlad
here.
Maharaj's son.
Yeah, he had 4 sons. They listen Virochana. So Prabhu, Virochana, do you know who he was?
Yeah.
He was
Virochana was not a devotee. He was
not a devotee.
Yeah, he was of a demoniac mentality, and that is why
Yeah.
given as an example that despite being a son of Prahlad Maharaj, he could not become a devotee, and despite becoming a son of Virochan, Bali Maharaj became a pure devotee.
Or devotee.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay, 126, it says Raja Shrina Jayati janayitha shasta choktaga minam nigrahita kaleresha bhuvo dharmasya karanat. Translation: the child will be the father of kings who will be like sages. For world peace and for the sake of religion, he will be the chastiser of the upstarts and the quarrelsome. Purport.
Yeah, should I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, please go ahead, Mati.
You have to make it a little higher.
Yeah.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The wisest man in the world is a devotee of the Lord. The sages are called wise men, and there are different types of wise men for different branches of knowledge. Unless, therefore, the king of the head of the state is the wisest man, he cannot control all types of wise men in the state. In the line of royal succession in the family of Maharaj Yudhishthira, all the kings without exception were the wisest men of their times, and so also it is foretold about Maharaj Parikshit and his son Maharaj Janamejaya,
Janmajaya.
who was yet to be born. Such wise kings can become chastiser of upstarts and uprooters of Kali or quarrelsome elements. As will be clear in the chapters ahead, Maharaj Parikshit wanted to kill the personified Kali who was attempting to kill a cow. The emblem of peace and religion. The symptoms of Kali are wine, women, gambling, and slaughterhouses. Wise rulers of all states should take lessons from Maharaj Parikshit in how to maintain peace and morality by subduing the upstarts and quarrelsome people who indulge in wine, illicit connection with women, gambling, and meat eating supplied by regularly maintained slaughterhouses. In this age of Kali, a regular license is issued for maintaining all these different departments of quarrel. So, how can they expect peace and morality in the state? The state fathers, therefore, must follow the principles of becoming wiser by devotion to the Lord, by chastising the breaker of discipline, and by uprooting the symptoms of quarrel, as mentioned above. If we want blazing fire, we must use dry fuel. Blazing fire and moist fuel go ill together. Peace and morality can prosper only by the principles of Maharaj Parikshit and his followers. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
So what other quality that is predicted here is that he will be the father of the kings who will be like the sages. So here it is also mentioned that Parikshit Maharaj down the line when he will meet a Kali personified who is trying to kill a bull, what conversation, beautiful conversation between the bull and the cow, both discussing on what is happening. The bull's 3 legs were broken. He was standing on 1 leg, and the Mother Earth also then starts speaking and glorifying, saying that since Lord Krishna has left, what is the impact? So the bottom line is here they are talking about 4 qualities, which is people would be after wine, women, gambling, and slaughterhouses. So a nice conversation that happens between these two, and with regards to this 4 principles on, where will Kali reside, where these 4 things are happening. How did, Parikshit Maharaj wanted to actually kill Kali at the spot, but then he took shelter of Parikshit Maharaj, begging, saying that, please forgive me. And then Parikshit Maharaj told him to stay where these 4 things are there. So Kali requested, where do I go? Your kingdom is such nice kingdom. Where do I live? So he said, wherever there is wine, gambling, slaughterhouses, you will take shelter of those places where, 4 regulative principles typically are not followed. So Parikshit Maharaj here is said that for all the world peace and for the sake of religion, he will chastise everyone that is required. So he typically wanted to have Kali out from his kingdom. So he did everything that was needed for the peace and for the sake of the religion. Okay. verse. 27, it says, Takshat Atmano Mrityum Dvija Putro Pasarjita Tapatsya Tapatsya Upashlutya Mukta Sangha Param Hare. Translation: after hearing about his death, which will be caused by a bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a Brahmana, he will get himself freed from all the material attachments and surrender onto personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. Purport.
Yes, Prabhu. Material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. Material attachment means ignorance of transcendental happiness under the shelter of the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord while existing in the material world is a way to practice one's transcendental relations with the Lord. And when it is matured, one gets completely free from all material attachments and become competent to go back home, back to Godhead. Maharaj Parikshit, being especially attached to the Lord from the beginning of his body, in the womb of his mother, was continuously under the shelter of the Lord, and the so called warning of his death within 7 days from the date of the curse by the Brahman's son was a boon to him to enable him to prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. Since he was always protected by the Lord, he could have avoided the effect of such a curse by the grace of the Lord, but he did not take such undue advantage for nothing. Rather, he made the best use of his bad bargain. For 7 days continuously, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source, and thus he got shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord by that opportunity.
So,
One question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Till this up to 26, there are astrologers who are telling the various qualities of Parikshit. Is it this thing is also?
So I'll answer, Prabhu. So when these Brahmanas are telling the qualities, typically what happens here is in this shloka, they are also predicting on what will happen to him. So it's not that Brahmanas should always speak good. Even this, what they foresaw was this, that he would die. So they are also even predicting that he would be good in the previous shlokas on all his qualities, but they are also mentioning that this is what would happen to Parikshit Maharaj and this is how he's going to die. So this also is a prediction. So it's not that Brahmanas are just pleasing to say good. No, it is also telling the truth that what will happen at the last moment and how is he going to die. So that was also a prediction by the Brahmanas.
Thank you.
So yes, here it is said that a very important point that if you have to relieve yourself, you need to surrender onto the personality of Godhead and you have to take shelter of him. Now with Parikshit Maharaj, the situation was a bit different. Since the beginning, he was always in contact with the Lord, from the beginning. Here it is mentioned that, if someone has a material attachment, it says that material attachment means ignorance. And then it is very difficult to take the shelter of the Lord. But then it says that devotional service to the Lord is something that can free you, and then you can go back to Godhead. Parikshit Maharaj, the situation was he was always in constant touch with the Lord, and when he received this curse, he never retaliated, as mentioned that he could have gone away with this, but then he never did that. This was just a way for Parikshit Maharaj to leave everything and to surrender to the Lord. So this was just an opportunity that Parikshit Maharaj took, saying that since I'm going to leave within 7 days, let me leave everything immediately, take the shelter of the Lord and surrender to him and leave the body in the presence of the Lord. So this is just predicting that this is what would happen to Parikshit Maharaj, and within 7 days he is going to die. But then it says that he will leave everything. He left his kingdom, he gave everything to his son, and then left. And within 7 days, he left his body in the presence of the Lord, hearing all the transcendental message. And this is all the Bhagavatam is all about. Okay. Okay, 28. Okay, this says Jigyasitatmana Jigyasatmana ya Sartho Muner Vyasa Sutta Saso Hitvedam Nrapa Pangayam Yasyati Adha Kutobhayam. Translation. After inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadev, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachments and achieve a life of fearlessness. Purport. Material knowledge means ignorance of knowledge of one's own self. Philosophy means to seek after the right knowledge of one's own self, or knowledge of self-realization. Without self-realization, philosophy is a dry speculation or waste of time and energy. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right knowledge of one's own self, and by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one gets freed from attachment and enter into a kingdom of fearlessness. This material world is fearfulness. Its prisoners are always fearful, as within a prison house. In the prison house, no one can violate the jail rules and regulations. And violating the rules means another term for extension of prison life. Similarly, we in this material existence are always fearful. This fearfulness is called anxiety. Everyone in the material life, in all species and all varieties of life, is full of anxieties, either by breaking or without breaking the laws of nature. Liberation or mukti means getting freed from these constant anxieties. This is possible only when the anxiety is changed to the devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the chance to change the quality of the anxiety from matter to spirit. This is done in the association of a learned philosophers like the self-realized Sukdev Goswami, a great son of Sri Vyasadev. Parikshit Maharaj, after receiving warnings of his death, took advantage of this opportunity by association with Sukdev Goswami and achieved the desired result. This is a sort of imitation of this reciting and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam by professional men. And their foolish audience thinks that they will get freed from the clutches of material attachments and attain the life of fearlessness. Such imitative hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is caricature only, and one should not be misled by such a performance of Bhagavatam Saptah undertaken by ridiculous greedy fellows to maintain an establishment of a material enjoyment. So here Prabhupada is saying he received so first Prabhupada in the purport says that you need to know who you are. So just knowing the self, doing a self-realization is what you should be after. And Prabhupada says that if you don't know who you are without the proper knowledge, then you are wasting your time and energy. So Sukdev Goswami, when he knew this, it is clearly mentioned that he renounced all the material, it's a prediction. So he will renounce all the material attachments And this is what he did. He went to Naimisharanya for listening Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada says that we all living entities have a lot of fearfulness, which is, Prabhupada says, it's an anxiety. And Prabhupada says the only way to convert that anxiety is by doing the service in association of the devotees. So once you do that, then you actually remove all the anxieties that you have, and Prabhupada says you convert that matter into a spirit. For Parikshit Maharaj, it was very simple to renounce everything and take the shelter. But for materialistic people, Prabhupada says this is the process that you need to go into the association of the devotees. You need to really get that knowledge to know who you are. And by just doing service to the Lord and bhakti towards the Lord is where you will be able to remove all the anxiety, which Prabhupada says, fearfulness that we have. Unless we do that, Prabhupada says at the last stage, you will not be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. So the only way and only possible way is doing bhakti towards the Lord. So for Parikshit Maharaj, it was quite simple, but he immediately gave up everything and said for the last 7 days, let me concentrate and just hear from the realized soul so that he can achieve the desired result. Okay. At the last stage, at the last sentence, Prabhupada is talking about all the bogus or bogus gurus that are there who typically talk about Srimad Bhagavatam only to get the material gain and to enjoy their material life. So this is what Prabhupada is objecting on in the last one. So this is the last shloka for today, 29, which says, Iti ragya upadishya viprajayata ka kovida labdhapa chitaya sarve pratijamyu swakan grahan. Translation. Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthira about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all return to their homes, to their respective homes. Purport. The Vedas are storehouses of knowledge, both material and spiritual. But such knowledge aims at perfection of self-realization. In other words, the Vedas are guides for the civilized man in every aspect. Since human life is the opportunity to get freed from all material miseries, it is properly guided by the knowledge of the Vedas in the matters of both material needs and spiritual salvation. The specific intelligence class of men who were devoted particularly to this knowledge of the Vedas were called Vipras, or the graduates of Vedic knowledge. There are different branches of knowledge in the Vedas, of which astrology and pathology are two important branches necessary for common man. So the intelligent men, generally known as the Brahmanas, took up the different branches of Vedic knowledge to guide the society. Even the department of the military education, Dhanurved, was also taken up by such intelligent men. And the Vipras were also teachers of this section of knowledge, as were Dronacharya, Kripacharya, etc. The word Vipra mentioned here is significant. There is a little difference between the Vipras and Brahmanas. The Vipras are those who are expert in karmakand or fruitive activities, guiding the society towards fulfilling the material necessities of life, whereas the Brahmanas are expert in the spiritual knowledge of transcendence. This department of knowledge is called Gyan Kand. And above these, there is Upasana Kand. The culmination of Upasana Kand is the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. And when the Brahmanas achieve perfection, they are called Vaishnavas. Vishnu worshipped the highest modes of worship. Elevated Brahmanas are Vaishnavas engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And thus Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the science of devotional service, is very dear to the Vaishnavas. As explained in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is a mature fruit of Vedic knowledge and a superior subject matter. Above three khandas, namely karma, gyan, and upasana, almost the karma kand experts, the Jataka expert Vipras were good astrologers who could tell the future of the history of a born child simply by astral calculations of time, Lagna. Such expert Jatak Vipras were present during the birth of Parikshit Maharaj and his grandfather. Maharaj Yudhishthir awarded the Vipras sufficiently with gold, land, villages, grains, and other valuable necessities of life, which also include cows. This is a need of such Vipras in the social culture, and it is the duty of the state to maintain them comfortably. As designed in the Vedic procedure, such expert Vipras, being sufficiently paid by the state, could give free service to the people in general, and thus this department of Vedic knowledge could be available for all. So here it is, these people, so Prabhupada is talking about the astrological knowledge, and Prabhupada said that there is a class of Brahmanas who actually took all those various responsibilities and duties. So there were few people who typically were called Vipras, who talked about Karmakand. Brahmanas were there who typically talked about the spiritual knowledge, who took there was one section that was talking about a military education, which was Dhanurved, also was taken by, so Prabhupada is calling them as intelligent people. So these were the people who took various branches, and Prabhupada says this was very much needed by the people in general, and there were people like this who were there. And here it is mentioned that these were these Brahmanas who were predicting the future of Parikshit Maharaj, and at the last, Yudhishthir Maharaj gave everything that was needed as a necessity to them: food, clothing, grains, cows, and everything. So Brahmanas typically lived only by doing the service like this, by asking people, and by doing all what is written here. Kings used to help all these Brahmanas and different kind of people that are mentioned here. So this was the last shloka, which was 22 to 29. So here it ends. This canto will end with the predictions being done, and later on we will see now Parikshit Maharaj ruling the kingdom, and how he meets the Kali personified, and what argument happens, and then the prediction which was done, like the snake will bite him, and then the 7 days is what he will spend in Naimisharanya to hear the Bhagavatam is. You will hear in the later verses. Any inputs from anyone? I just want to read 2 more things after this. Any inputs from anyone?
No, Prabhu.
Okay, so today also is appearance day of Advaita Acharya. So I was thinking that let's read 2 more pages about Advaita Acharya, who Advaita Acharya is, and what is his significance. It's quite nice to hear about him on this day. So I'll just read 2 pages about him on Advaita Acharya appearance day today. So let's read from these 2 para. One is typically talking about Advaita Acharya, what he did, and then later there is one story about Prabhupada also that I want to read. So it is said, the foremost of all the Vaishnavas who reside at Navdvip is Sri Advaita Acharya, whose virtuous presence has made all the worlds blessed. He is the most preeminent preceptor in all the fields, including knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. In explaining Krishna Bhakti, he is like unto Lord Shankara, Shiva himself. And whatever scriptures that exist within the three worlds, he explains in the light of Krishna Bhakti. With the intense eagerness, he continually worships the Shaligram of Sri Krishna with Tulsi Manjaris and Ganges water. By the momentum of his spiritual force, his loud shouts pierce the covering of this universe and resounding throughout the Vaikuntha reaches the ears of Sri Krishna. Hearing this loving summons, saturated with devotion, Sri Krishna advents himself. So this is the way how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this material world, and it was only because of the prayers that Advaita Acharya did. So he used to worship Shaligram Shila with Tulsi Manjaris and Ganges water. And with his loud force, with his loud shouts, he called upon to the Lord, saying, "Please appear in this material world." And this is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in. So it says that on the 7th day of the bright fortnight of this month of the Magh, the great ocean of ecstasy swelled to its limits, being forcibly attracted by the moon of Advaita, who appeared from the womb of Sri Nabhadevi as the moon appears in the autumn sky. His father, Sri Kuver Pandit, floated in the ocean of joy. In the great happiness, gave many gifts in great happiness, gave many gifts in charity to the Brahmanas who voluntarily accept vows of the poverty. Very quickly, he approached the maternity room to get a glimpse of his newborn son. Then his own face began to shine by the reflected light of that moonlight personage. The residents of Nabagram came running to see this child. Everyone remarked that they had never seen such a beautiful baby. With a pious activity, his father must have what a pious activity his father must have performed to get such a jewel of a son, and that in his old age. The Ghanshyam signs about his occasions, I think this is referring to, I will check out what this is. The child was named Mangal and his other name was Kamalaksha. Advait Acharya is combined incarnation of Mahavishnu and Sadashiv. So he is Mahavishnu with Sadashiv, okay, who resides in Goloka. His two consorts, Sita and Sri, are manifestations of Yogmaya. Once when Advaita performed worship, whatever gods and demigods he used to meditate upon, he saw all gathered at Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, offering prayers. Raising up his two hands, Advaita exclaimed in great ecstasy, "Today all the days of my life have produced a successful result. As all my desires have been fulfilled, my birth, my activities have finally borne fruit. I have directly perceived your two lotus feet, which are proclaimed throughout the four Vedas, but you are unattainable thereby. Now, by your causeless mercy, you have revealed yourself to me." So this is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals his actual form to Advaita Acharya, and this is where he sees all the gods and demigods meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. So once he reveals this form, this is where he's offering the praise to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu replied, Acharya, now you should perform my worship. First, Advaita Acharya washed the lotus 2 feet with water, scented flowers, petals, and then with water scented sandalwood. Then he placed on his lotus feet tulsi manjari dipped in sandalwood paste, along with argya, an auspicious offering of rice, darba grass, yogurt, etc. His eyes brimming with tears, he offered incense, ghee, lamps, flowers, and sandalwood paste, and some foodstuff. After offering various prayers, he loudly proclaimed that the Lord's glories with the auspicious shouts. All glories to the Lord and maintainer of the universe, the Lord of all that lives. All glories to Gaur Chandra, the ocean of mercies. All glories to the most munificent incarnation of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose form is all enchanting. All glories to he who decorated with the ornaments of Srivatsa and Kaustubh. All glories to he who has revealed the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. All glories to he who enjoys the pastime of accepting devotion unto himself. All glories to Mahaprabhu who reclines on the bed of Ananta Shesh. All glories to the refuge of all living entities. This is, I think, Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Leela Shri 6.116. Hearing Advait prayers, Mahaprabhu replied, My dear Acharya, I am very pleased by your prayers, and now you can ask from me any benediction you like. Then Advaita Acharya requested that my only request is that you distribute the love of Krishna even to women, laborers, and ignorant fools as well. Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Leela 6.17. So this is Advaita Acharya. He's asking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come, and he used to worship Shaligram Shila with Tulsi, and with his loud chants and his devotion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this material world. There's one more small story that I would like to cover. This is Prabhupada, a very interesting part. So this is a story from a pujari at Sri Advait Acharya's house in Shantipur, West Bengal. So it says he came to ISKCON Chandroday Mandir with a copy of Bhakti. So this is the pujari. So let's read what he's saying. Just recently, an amazing realization occurred to me that I wanted to share with the devotees everywhere. I have been pujari and sevadhari at the house of Advait Acharya for many years. I was also there back in 1940s and 50s. So this is where Prabhupada was there. At that time, I noticed that one Grihastha Bengali devotee was coming to the temple quite regularly. He was dressed in a white khadi dhoti and kurta, and he always came alone. He would sit in the back of the mandir without speaking and would chant Harinam on his mala very quietly and deeply. He came on the weekends usually once every month or two. After chanting for many hours, he would always thank me when he left. His presence was profound, and I became attracted to him. Since his devotions were solitary, I never spoke to disturb him. Sometimes I happened to notice that while he was chanting, his eyes would be full of tears. Then for a very long time, he did not come. But in August 1965, I saw a saffron cloth sannyasi sitting in the back of the mandir and recognized him to be my old friend. After he sat for a long time chanting Hare Krishna, I could see his beads moving, his eyes closed in concentrated devotion. He was weeping unabashedly, even more than he used to, while he took the holy name. Finally, as evening came, he paid his Dandavat Pranam for a long time. When he arose, he came up to me and again thanked me for my seva here at Advaita Bhavan. I asked him, "Who are you? I remember you from so long ago." He replied, "My name is Abhay Charna Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj. I am an unworthy disciple of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, my divine master. I have been coming here for such a long time because my Gurudev has given me an impossible mission. His desire was for me to go across the Asian to the Western countries and spread the sublime teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are countless souls who have never heard of Sri Radha and Krishna, and so they are suffering greatly. I have not known how the mission of his will be successful. So I have been coming here to this special house of Advaita Acharya, where he, Nityanand Prabhu, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would gather together to plan for a Sankirtan movement. It was here that they launched the inundation of love of God that swept India and continues to this day. Thus, I have been praying earnestly here that they will give me their mercy, that somehow they will empower me and guide me. I want to satisfy my Gurudev's desire, but I am feeling unqualified to do so. As he was speaking to me, I saw tears falling down on his cheeks again. Then he continued, "Tomorrow I am leaving for a Calcutta to go upon a ship across the ocean to America. I do not know what will befall me there. I am praying most earnestly here for help." Then he very humbly asked me for my blessings. I was moved by this Vaishnav's sincerity and determination as I watched humbly depart upon his journey. It was few years later that I began noticing for the first time white Vaishnavas coming to Advait Bhavan. They were wearing dhotis and saris and chanting on Tulsi Mala. I never spoke to any of them, but then one of them gave me this book, Back to Godhead magazine from America. As I looked at the photographs, suddenly I recognized the picture of the founder Acharya who had brought Krishna consciousness to the West. It was my friend Bhaktivedanta Swami who had come and prayed here so many times before. Then I realized that he actually accomplished that impossible mission of his Gurudev. I saw that it was he, starting alone without pretense, who had accomplished this glorious miracle against all the odds. As soon as I saw this, I came to this temple at Mayapur. This is the Pujari coming and giving this information. So Prabhupada, before leaving to the West, sat at Advait Acharya's house in Shantipur. He used to pray to all those personalities along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to bless him. And this is the Pujari, translating that Prabhupada accomplished his mission after he left from here. Okay. Hare Krishna. I just wanted to read who Advaita Acharya was, how he did invite Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we all got the mercy now, as Hare Krishna Mahamantra was given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the whole world. And it was only because of the prayers of Advaita Acharya that it was possible. Okay. So anyone with any inputs, any updates?
Thank you, Prabhu, for such a beautiful information about Advaita Acharya and Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Really fantastic. When I was hearing about the Prabhupada, how he used to go and sit there and chant, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so I think we're done for today.
Hare Krishna.
Subal Prabhu, you have anything? Yes, Shishil Prabhu.
No, thank you, Prabhu.
So we can stop the recording and we can stop the sessions here. Subal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Actually, he just got a call from the office, so he's just speaking
Yeah,
on.
sure. Sure, fine. I just wanted to say we can close the session, Mataji. We are all done for today. Anything else from anyone?
That's it, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Prabhuji.
much.
Thank you
Thank you
so
all.
much
Thank
for
you
the
so much.
class.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna to everyone.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, actually, okay, how do I stop it? Okay, I think this is the way I can stop it. I'm just trying to stop it by thing.